The last time I spoke to my husband, he said, "I'll be back before dinner," and kissed me on the forehead like he always did. The accident happened 10 minutes later, and I burned the food that night because I couldn't stop waiting for a door that would never open. It happened on a Thursday. I remember that clearly because Thursday was chicken night. I had a recipe I was trying out, something new with honey and mustard. I wanted it to be good. Danny had been working hard all week, and we hadn't sat down for a proper dinner in days. He came home around 5, tossed his keys in the bowl near the door like always, kissed me on the forehead, and asked, "What's cooking, babe?"
"Chicken.
"That honey thing I told you about." He smiled. "Smells good already. Want me to grab a bottle of wine to go with it?" "Sure," I said. "Something red." He put his coat back on, grabbed his wallet, and kissed me again on the forehead. "I'll be back before dinner." That was the last thing he ever said to me. The accident happened 10 minutes later. A semi ran a red light at the intersection off Route 17. Danny was in the middle of the turn lane. The driver didn't slow down, didn't even hit the brakes. He plowed right through Danny's little silver Toyota and dragged it half a block before stopping. They said he died instantly, that there was nothing anyone could have done. The cop came to the door around 6:30. I was still waiting for the wine. The chicken was in the oven. I opened the door, and the look on the officer's face told me everything before he said a word.
I don't remember what I said.
I don't remember what he said either. I just remember nodding. My hands were shaking. I went back inside, and the chicken was smoking. The kitchen was filled with haze, but I didn't care. I didn't move. I just stood there, looking at the front door. I thought if I stood there long enough, it would open. That he would come walking through it, apologizing for being late, holding a bottle of red wine. But he never did. The funeral was a blur. His parents flew in from Denver. My sisters stayed the whole week. Everyone kept saying the same things. "I'm so sorry. He was such a good man. Let us know if you need anything." And he was a good man.
The best.
It wasn't until a week after the funeral that something started to feel wrong. His insurance company called. Routine, they said. Just paperwork. They emailed over the police report and some documents I had to sign. I didn't read it at first. I just clicked through. But something made me go back. And that's when I saw it. The report said the semi had no mechanical issues. The driver wasn't drunk. Wasn't under the influence. But there was a note buried on page 3. The driver, a man named Carl Bowers, had been fired from his last trucking job for reckless driving. Not just once, 3 times. And the company that hired him, Tucker Logistics, had ignored all of it. I did some digging. Their safety record was a disaster. They'd had 5 fatal crashes in the past 2 years. 5. And every single one involved a driver who shouldn't have been behind the wheel. I started making calls. I found other families. One woman lost her son in Kentucky. Another man's wife was killed outside of Dayton. All the same story. They'd all been told it was an accident. Just like me. But these weren't accidents. They were the result of a company that didn't give a damn who they put behind the wheel, as long as the freight got delivered on time. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about grief anymore. This was about making someone pay. I spent the next few weeks obsessed. I stopped going to work. I stopped answering calls from friends. All I did was dig. I looked into Tucker Logistics every day, sometimes until 3 or 4 in the morning. Their company website looked clean, too clean. But on legal sites, the cracks showed. Civil lawsuits, out-of-court settlements, OSHA violations. Buried deep. Most people wouldn't even think to look. The CEO was a man named Mitchell Greaves. Lived in a big house just outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania. He had a smile like a preacher and a record like a mob boss. He'd been sued 5 times, all settled quietly. He never faced charges, never did a day of time. Just paid his way out. I looked him up on Facebook. Pictures of him on boats, smiling with a glass of whiskey in his hand. Meanwhile, I couldn't walk past Danny's side of the bed without falling apart. One night, after downing a bottle of cheap wine alone in the kitchen, I messaged him. I didn't even think about it. I just wrote, "You put a killer behind the wheel. My husband is dead because of you." He never responded. But the next day, my laptop glitched. My emails wouldn't load. My internet slowed to a crawl. I thought maybe it was just my crappy Wi-Fi, but then my phone started acting up too. I got locked out of my online banking. Then I got an email, anonymous, no subject line. Just one sentence. Stop digging, or you'll end up just like him. I dropped the phone. Literally. It hit the tile floor and cracked the screen. I should have gone to the cops. I know that. But I didn't. Because I knew they'd just tell me what everyone else had. It's over. Move on. But I couldn't move on. I printed every document I had. I taped photos and timelines to the guest room wall. I started keeping a journal, tracking everything, Greaves' business meetings, changes in his staff, truck routes. It was turning me into someone I didn't recognize. But I didn't care. Then one night, I followed a name I saw mentioned in one of the lawsuits, David Kemper, a former mechanic for Tucker Logistics. I found him living in a trailer outside Scranton. I drove 3 hours to meet him. He looked like he hadn't shaved in a week and had a cough that wouldn't quit. Said he had cancer and Tucker Logistics cut off his health insurance the day he stopped working. When I told him about Danny, he just sighed. You ain't the first, he said. And you won't be the last. Greaves don't care. He pays the fines, keeps the wheels rolling. That's all that matters to him. I asked him if there was proof. David looked at me like I was a child. You want proof? I got a box full in the shed. But you better be sure you know what you're doing, lady. People who go after Greaves, they disappear. I left with a flash drive and a stack of files. The flash drive had emails between Greaves and regional managers. Emails where they explicitly told recruiters to fast-track drivers with revoked licenses, DUIs, and worse. One even said, as long as he can drive straight for 100 miles, I don't care if he's half-blind. That was the smoking gun. But instead of feeling relief, I felt sick. Because now I had to decide, what do I do with this? Do I take it to the cops? The press? Or do I handle it myself? I didn't sleep that night. I kept looking at the flash drive. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, rage. Pure, white-hot rage. I thought about going to the police. Again. But then I remembered what happened to one of the families I talked to, Erica, the woman from Kentucky who lost her son. She'd taken her story to a local reporter. 2 days later, someone broke into her garage and torched her car. Nothing else was touched. The cops called it vandalism. She moved 3 states away. No, I couldn't trust the system. Not with this. The next morning, I went back to David Kemper's place. I wanted more. I needed to know how deep this ran. But when I got there, the place was surrounded with yellow tape. A cop car was parked out front. A body bag was being wheeled out. I felt the blood drain from my face. I stayed back, hidden behind a row of cars at the nearby gas station. Asked a man pumping gas if he knew what happened. Old guy? They say he fell asleep with a cigarette. Place went up like a matchbox. I knew that was a lie. David didn't even smoke. Someone had killed him. Now I was really alone. But I also knew I was getting too close. Which meant I was right. I went back home and started planning. Not wild ideas. Real, careful plans. I wasn't going to just expose Greaves. I was going to ruin him. But then something happened that knocked the air out of me. Something I never saw coming. A week after David's death, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name and address, handwritten. Inside was a photo.
Danny.
Smiling.
Alive.
But it wasn't an old photo. It was new. He was walking into a building holding a phone, looking over his shoulder. His hair was longer. He looked older. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks after he died. I dropped to the floor. I thought I was going crazy, but it was him. I would have known him anywhere. The scar on his chin. The way he held his phone like it annoyed him. How the hell was this possible? I went back to the police report. I checked the death certificate. I called the hospital, where they took his body. Everything said the same thing. Daniel Rice. Pronounced dead at 6:22 p.m. on March 2nd. ID'd by his wallet and license. But what if? What if that body wasn't him? What if someone wanted me to think he was dead?
And why?
That was when the revenge turned into something else. Now I wasn't just after justice. Now I had to know the truth. I spent days staring at that photo, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. Maybe it was doctored. Maybe someone was messing with me. But deep down I knew. It was Danny. And if that was true, then everything I thought I knew was a lie. I booked a cheap motel room and left my phone at home. Bought a burner at a gas station and started tracking down the building in the photo. I matched a street sign and a window sticker to a business in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a warehouse leased to a holding company with no real name. I drove out there at night, parked across the street, and waited. 2 hours later, I saw him.
Danny. Alive.
In a gray hoodie and jeans. He looked over his shoulder the same way he always did when he thought he heard something. He looked nervous. Paranoid. I almost ran to him, but something stopped me. My legs wouldn't move. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't think straight. And then he walked inside, past a security camera and a keypad-locked door. Like he belonged there. That night, I stayed in the car till sunrise. I didn't know if I was going to scream or throw up. The next morning, I made a plan. I waited 2 more days, watching his movements. He always showed up at night. Always alone. I followed him once. To a gas station, then a dive motel 2 miles away. He checked in under a fake name. I asked the clerk the next day who he was. Guy comes and goes.
Bikesh.
Quiet. I waited outside that night, and when I saw him coming back, I confronted him. He froze like he'd seen a ghost. Danny, I said. He didn't say a word. He looked thinner. Older. His eyes were different. Tired. Hollow. What the hell is going on? I said. You're dead. I buried you. He swallowed hard, then said the first words I'd heard from him in almost 2 months. I'm sorry. I slapped him. I couldn't help it. You're sorry? He looked down. I had no choice. No choice. I screamed. You let me think you were dead. You let me plan a funeral. He nodded slowly, like he knew he deserved it. Then he told me the truth. Danny had gotten into something bad. Real bad. He'd been laundering money for Tucker Logistics. Not by choice. He'd stumbled on their illegal routes and fake invoices while doing contract work for their billing system. Instead of turning them in, he let them pay him to keep quiet. I thought it'd be a one-time thing, he said. Then they made it 2. Then 5. Then I was in too deep. He told me Greaves found out he was thinking of going to the cops. They gave me 2 choices. Disappear or die for real. So he picked disappearing. They staged the crash. Found a John Doe body, burned beyond ID. Planted Danny's license and wallet and made it look like an accident. And you let them do it, I said. He looked me dead in the eye. I thought I was protecting you. They said if I ran, you'd be safe. I laughed. Cold and sharp. They threatened me. They killed people. I know, he said. I didn't think it'd go this far. I couldn't look at him anymore. I should have walked away. Called the police. Turned in the flash drive. Let the system handle it. But I didn't. I told him to meet me the next night. I said I wanted to help him. That we could fix this together. He showed up. And so did the feds. I made a deal behind his back. Immunity for me, in exchange for the files, the emails, and Danny himself. They arrested him outside the motel. Greaves went down too. The files had enough to bury him, and with Danny testifying, it was all locked in. But I didn't go to the trial. I moved out of state. Got a new phone. Changed my name. The last letter I got from Danny was from prison. He said he still loved me. Said he understood why I did what I did. That he hoped one day I could forgive him. I burned it. Because here's the truth. He didn't just betray the law. He betrayed me. He let me live inside a nightmare for weeks while he hid in the shadows. I got my revenge. Greaves is rotting in federal prison. Danny's doing time too. But I lost the love of my life. And I'll never forgive him for making me mourn him while he was still breathing.